There goes Jeff Hanson into the corner. I think it's Jeff. No, it's Jack. It's 17. I'll have to check that later. Oh, Steve is in front of the net. I think that's Steve. Yes. No, yeah, it is Steve.
In George Roy Hill's Slapshot, the leads may be Paul Newman, Reggie Dunlop, and Strother Martin, Joe McGrath, and Michael Ontkean, Ned Braden. But the players who capture the viewers' hearts and minds will always be Jack, Steve, and Jeff Hanson. Why this is so is the subject I'm tackling today. While it is definitely true that the brothers are tough customers, no one can ever debate that, I feel as though there is something more than just fighting on their collective resumes, though there is that as well. There are, in the end, a number of other factors which contribute to their hockey immortality. No doubt, Jim Carr, Andrew Duncan, has it exactly right in his query to Reggie during their interview.
What about the Hanson brothers?
What about them? They're not just bullies? What do you mean, just bullies? They scare the bejesus out of everybody.
Why are we so compelled by the three brothers? What do they represent exactly? How was Nancy Dowd able to create characters so indelible that we continue to think about them to this day? Why do they mean so much to fans of the film and of the game? It breaks down in two ways. Some of this has to do with who they are and how they behave, which we'll come to shortly, but it's also about the manner in which we're introduced to them that triggers and keeps our initial interest. In that sense, Nancy Dowd's script is exceptionally effective in keeping us focused on what happens next. Parenthetically, I should add that Ms. Dowd's brother Ned, who plays Ogie Oglethorpe, a character based on legendary minor league and WHA enforcer Goldie Goldthorpe, tape-recorded many conversations with his teammates with the Johnstown Jets of the North American Hockey League to help his sister capture the essence of how minor league players tended to express themselves. In the best tradition of memorable characters in film, we only hear about the Hansons first before meeting them.
Would you hold it a minute?
What happens to us when the mill closes?
Don't worry about it. Here, the new boys are coming in on the 4:15 bus.
No, I want to know what happens to...
As with everything connected to McGrath, Reggie is incredulous.
Who are these guys? I never even heard of them.
Son, just pick them up and take them over to the hotel.
I've done enough shit work for today.
Clearly it is more than one person. We immediately wonder, who are they? It is such a dramatic way of introducing characters that we suspect they might end up being significant. Arriving at the bus station, Reggie seems to believe he missed the newly acquired players, but then he hears a racket and makes his way towards them. Other people seem afraid and are retreating, walking away fast. If nothing else, the reveal is memorable. 3 large men taking on a vending machine is not something you see in every film. The scene is significant because it defines who the characters are, and there are echoes of the tag team vending machine assault throughout the movie. Also, the viewer is immediately struck by Steve's succinctness in summarizing the situation, even leaving out the word "the," because it is unnecessary, saying only,
"This fucking machine took my quarter. Who are you?"
Reggie Dunlop, the coach.
The fact that the brothers work together to punish the vending machine is also significant, since they do everything together and clearly prefer each other's company over other people's. During the game against the Broome County Blades, we see that the brothers collectively overwhelm the puck carrier in a manner reminiscent of their systematic attack on the vending machine. Once again, this reveals who they are. Reggie is their coach. He is a responsible adult figure 30 years their senior, and they accept that he would rather they stop vandalizing the machine. Steve is more reluctant to quit than either of his brothers and takes one last shot at the machine, and it pays off. Maybe we should digress for just a second here so that everyone knows which person is which. From left to right, Jack Hanson, number 16, left wing, played by Dave Hanson. Steve Hanson, number 17, center, played by Steve Carlson. And Jeff Hanson, number 18, right wing, played by Jeff Carlson. Steve and Jeff are real-life brothers, and their middle brother, Jack Carlson, was originally cast as Jack Hanson, but he was called up to the WHA by the Oilers and was thus unavailable to appear in Slapshot. As a result, Dave Hanson, the fairer-haired of the 3 brothers, was cast in the role instead. Just to give you another way of remembering who's who, Jeff is the brother who is hit in the face by a keychain in Hyannisport. Steve is the brother who initiates the brawl during the pregame warm-up against the Peterborough Patriots, and Jack is the brother who upends the Broome County Blades goalie. As we've already seen, the Hansons like to work as a single unit. They room together, play on the same line, and are rarely separated for very long. During a road trip, they express extreme displeasure with an uncooperative desk clerk who unwisely tries to place them into different hotel rooms. They want to be together, and we never see them getting tired of one another or subgrouping with other teammates. They are so close that they sometimes finish each other's sentences, as when Reggie asks them about their use of tinfoil.
What are you guys doing?
Putting on the foil. Every game.
Yeah, you want some?
No.
This particular method of communication, a kind of mini three-line discussion amongst the brothers, recurs frequently, as when Reggie decides to embrace an old-time hockey approach just prior to the championship game.
Reggie's our coach.
Yeah, sure, old-time hockey. Like 80s shore. Yeah.
Here is another example when Reggie comes into their room on the road trip.
Brought your cars with you, huh?
Yeah, we're on the road. We're all set to go.
Tell us when.
In Nancy Dowd's script, the Hanson brothers function as a kind of general wish fulfillment. Let's see how that works. Because people often dream of closer relationships with their siblings, especially because people tend to drift apart as the years go on, the Hansons are remarkable. They truly seem to respect and love one another, and they especially enjoy working together as a unit. It seems likely that they will spend their lives in relatively close proximity to one another. But wishing to have relationships as close as theirs is only part of this. And to be perfectly frank, it may not apply to everyone. Thus, for some fans, the wish fulfillment is of another kind. Whether through the entry draft, or free agency, or a trade, fans often hope that their franchise will acquire a monumental player who transforms their team into a winner. The dream is that they acquire the one component part which the team lacks. The Islanders famously accomplished this back in 1980 with their acquisition of Butch Goring of the Los Angeles Kings, and he ended up being a pivotal player in their run to the Stanley Cup that year and beyond. Of course, it didn't hurt that they already had Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy, Denis Potvin, and Billy Smith in their lineup. Regardless, the hope is that new players will remake a team's chemistry. This seems to be the expectation of every team in March each year around the NHL trading deadline. In an early scene, the Charlestown players seem to fear having to play against Ogie Oglethorpe and express relief when they learn he is under suspension by the league.
Today. Oh, yeah, real cement head. Yeah, big afro, 21, 22, watch out for him.
He's not playing, he's suspended.
One might thus conclude that what Charlestown most needed was its own version of Oglethorpe, an enforcer to ensure that their most skilled players, like the Federal League's leading scorer Ned Braden, wouldn't be pushed around. The arrival of the three brothers and Reggie's subsequent decision to insert them into the game against the Broome County Blades transforms Charlestown. From their first shift onward, after Reggie invites them to
Show us what you got.
the Hansons change the team's chemistry, and the fans come to quickly appreciate the boys' hard-nosed, aggressive style. Fans want players they can root for, players who will have an impact, who make an immediate difference. There is also something fascinating about their constituting one single line, and Reggie knows enough not to break up a winning combo. This becomes part of what drives the fans' interest. It's inherently more fascinating to see a line of brothers coming into the game. I tried to think of an analogy, but it is admittedly imprecise because of the vast disparity in skill. Anyway, in 1980, the Quebec Nordiques were suddenly able to add Peter, Anton, and later Marian Stastny to their lineup. They transformed Quebec into a more compelling team to watch, with a very dynamic offense, together with the existing talent like Jacques Richard, Michel Goulet, and Robbie Ftorek. Like the Stastnys, the Hansons have an impact and are very popular with the fans, albeit for different reasons. In Charlestown, and in hockey at this time, teams like Freddie Shiro's Flyers, known as the Broad Street Bullies back then, captured the attention of fans with their capacity to really hurt other teams, to really inflict punishment. Admittedly, the Hansons don't possess a tenth of the talent of these Czech stars who are finesse players, but the analogy here is that the Hansons have an immediate and huge impact on the outcome of games. In Slapshot, everything is changed when Reggie finally permits them to play. It turns out the Hansons are like adding 3 Ogie Oglethorpes to the lineup. So beyond this particular aspect of wish fulfillment, Nancy Dowd has 2 other techniques that build interest in the Hansons throughout Slapshot. First, she gives them a goodly portion of the most memorable and iconic lines in the film.
Pay for you here for a week, then you gotta find a room of your own.
Okay, Coach. Give me a grape and an orange, and none of that stinking root beer.
What are you guys doing?
Putting on the foil. Every game.
Yeah, you want some?
You guys are Hansons.
Fucking machine took my quarter.
Dave's a killer! Yeah!
serial killer.
Hey, fellas, there's 6 of them out there for us.
I have any trouble, I'll suspend you. I'm listening to a fucking song!
This last one always stuck with me since it summed up the action so well and, of course, has the virtue of being true. Steve is able to terminate the referee's warning by pointing out that the national anthem should be respected. For the Hanson brothers, what the ref says is pretty much irrelevant. They will tend to play the game their way, so the referee is no more than a buzzkill in vertical stripes, an unnecessary evil. As in the pre-game brawl in Peterborough, the brothers would rather fight without the refs to break things up.
And there's no one to stop it because there are no officials on the ice.
Beyond their hilarious dialogue, the second reason that the Hansons are memorable is because they are the subject of endless speculation, or gossip, by the other characters. This method is so extensively employed in the script that Slapshot at times becomes a movie about people talking about and commenting on the Hansons. It starts with Reggie weighing in with GM Joe McGrath.
They brought their fucking toys with them.
I'd rather have them playing with their toys than playing with themselves.
They're too dumb to play with themselves.
One player, Johnny Upton, played by Alan F. Nichols, has many different things to say about the Hansons, none of it complimentary.
These guys are a fucking disgrace.
God, save us.
They're fucking horrible looking.
Oh, don't look at me. It's McGrath's doing, not mine.
What'd the old man trade for these assholes? A used puck bag?
Come on, let's go.
It's fucking embarrassing.
Even the players' wives seem to have opinions.
Aren't those Hansons something?
Aren't they, though?
They're sort of funny looking.
Oddly, Lily Braden, who doesn't really seem to have any interaction with the brothers, nevertheless has definitively formed thoughts about who they are.
They couldn't be as dumb as they look.
Yes, they could. They're just goons.
There is also Reggie Dunlop's interview with Jim Carr that touches on the Hansons.
They're not just bullies. What do you mean, just bullies? They scare the bejesus out of everybody. Deliberately.
And Reggie's conversation with Anita McCambie.
The radio interviews are fantastic. And the Hanson brothers? Oh, my God.
And Reggie's aside to Ned when he is still ambivalent about the brothers.
Every game. Yeah, you want some?
Jesus fucking Christ, they don't leave the bench.
And Reggie's prevarication-filled conversation on the phone with Dickie Dunn after the Hansons are arrested for going into the stands to fight the Hyannisport fans.
Hey, Red.
Putting the Hansons away on a trumped-up charge. Someone threw a monkey wrench. Yeah, it hit Jeff right in the face.
Then there is what the opposition fans say and think.
Now those Hanson priests! Bunch of animals, you Hanson apes!
Whether complimentary or not, the characters in the film are fascinated by the Hansons. Conversely, the Hansons never feel the need to gossip and behave in this manner. It should be noted that they do not denigrate others. Throughout the film, people hang labels on the Hansons, goons, and so forth. But this is a very narrow interpretation. In truth, the brothers are incredibly well adjusted, deferential to others, and among the most reliable and professional players on the roster. While Ned Braden thinks it's perfectly normal to sit out while his entire team is engaged in a Donnybrook against Syracuse in the championship game, the Hansons in contrast are on the ice defending, as Reggie would say, the honor of Charlestown. They are loyal to their teammates and never utter insults behind people's backs. Who would you rather have as a teammate? Someone who is respectful, positive, and upbeat, and never says an unkind word? Or someone who simply disappears when you need them most? Which brings us to the slot car scene. I know people interpret this scene in certain ways, as there being something wrong with the Hansons, as though they are somehow not all there, or as a scene played for laughs, but I never felt this way. I am struck by different things in this turning point in the film. Of course, it's a little sad that the team is drinking and playing cards and watching television in Reggie's hotel room, but the Hansons are not there. It seems likely that the rest of the team are either scared of the Hansons, or perhaps just don't enjoy their company, or think of them as Reggie does, kind of weirdos. It's a little like grade school. One way or the other, the Hansons know where they are not wanted and do not attempt to impose themselves on others. This is a judicious and intelligent approach and kind of shy and sweet. They are just as happy to hang out together while waiting to get to know the team a little better and to be invited. Significantly, they leave the door of their room open. This is as symbolic an act as there is. It shows that they are open to the presence of other teammates should they want to visit, or perhaps engage in a little slot car racing. The Hansons are unashamed of having a harmless hobby. Today, lots of people like games, though today they tend to be cyber, more than physical. Over and over, the Hansons demonstrate that they are sharers, asking Reggie, for example, if he would like some of their foil for his knuckles, or later, if he would like to read one of their favorite comic books when he comes into the Big King Drugs soda fountain shop.
Hey, guys, I'm proud of you. They're talking about you in the streets. Hey, Coach, you want to wait Avenger? No.
They have big hearts, and they know how to comport themselves surprisingly well. They seem like naturals with the fans, gentle, respectful, and friendly. Fighters, at least back then, were oftentimes very popular with fans. We see that later when they become quasi-ambassadors, if not for the sport, then at least for the Chiefs, which is ironic since the three athlete actors playing the parts of the Hansons really do eventually become sort of informal ambassadors for the sport. It is easy to judge the Hansons. Some of the viewers have dismissed them as animals and goons, but they are also people, just making their way through the world. They are as good-hearted as they come. On the ice, it is true that they fight, but we must understand that this is their way of making a living and of staying part of the game that they love. For the Hansons, it's a little like that old dictum of René Descartes, except it's more like, I fight, therefore I am. They're enforcers who are expected to stand up to the toughest players on the opposing team, like Oglethorpe. After this scene, Reggie seems a bit less judgmental towards the brothers. He seems to be realizing, slowly, that they are perhaps not harmless exactly, quite the contrary as concerns opposing players, but they could nevertheless become indispensable to the type of team that he is seeking to build. For sure, their eagerness to please Reggie and become part of the team is readily apparent. It seems clear that the Hansons could be Reggie's ideal kind of players, more than willing to play a physically demanding style that wins over the fans. The thought occurs that they are surely a natural fit for Reggie's new team at the end of Slapshot, the Minnesota Nighthawks. There is something else as well. Though the Hansons are anxious about when they will finally be permitted to play in a Federal League game, they are not pushy or aggressive with Reggie, but merely let him know that they are ready whenever he is.
Oh, we're on the road. We're all set to go. Tell us when.
It is significant that they do not press further and immediately accept Reggie's explanation.
I'm shuffling lines around, guys. I'll let you know when I get it straightened out.
Okay, Coach.
Thanks. See you there, Coach. 5-0.
They unquestioningly accept the hierarchy on the Chiefs and defer to Reggie's better judgment. Jack, Steve, and Jeff are trusting souls who only wish to contribute to the success of the Chiefs. They are actually on the same page as Reggie, and they let him know about it. That's smart. They appear naive or are naive or both, but either way they are kind of working the system from within. Later, in what Ned Braden labels the garbage win against the Long Island Ducks, Reggie's opinion of the boys begins to solidify. They show that he can count on their support. This was the game that Charlestown won because Reggie was able to get the opposition goalie, Tommy Hanrahan, played by Christopher Murney, off his game by revealing that he knows all about the difficulties in Hanrahan's marriage. Back in the dressing room, when Reggie explains what he was trying to do, the Hansons seem sympathetic, even enthusiastic, about the lengths Reggie will go to get Charlestown the win. As mentioned earlier, it is another sort of mini three-way communication between the Hansons themselves.
Berserker.
You nailed him, Coach. You nailed him right in the fucking head.
You nailed him right in his mind. Besides, you deserved it. Yeah.
The Hansons appreciate what Reggie is trying to do and are all in, drinking the proverbial Dunlop Kool-Aid. It's not like that old saying, my country right or wrong, but it's more like on the money, in Reggie we trust. That pretty much sums up their approach to playing for Charlestown. If it means winning, why not be supportive? Besides, all the Hansons desire at this point is playing time, and Reggie hasn't let them off the bench, at least at that point in the film against the Ducks. It couldn't hurt them to support their coach's plan, whatever it might be, and they do this throughout the film, whether it be Reggie's abortive plan to play only old-time hockey in the championship game.
Reggie's their coach.
Yeah, sure, old-time hockey. Like 80s Shore.
Yeah. Our line starts.
Sure.
Or just jingoistically repeating whatever Reggie says in his pep talk when they first arrive in Charlestown before the game with the Lancaster Gears.
We need this win, you know. We got a lot of losses to...
Yeah, we got a lot of losses. Let's start making up for it. Start winning. Time to go to the top. At the bottom.
That's what we're here for, guys, to win.
Even in this early scene, the viewer should note that Reggie can't help but smile just a little, perhaps amused by their youthful and harmless enthusiasm. If nothing else, The Hansons are intellectually consistent. When Reggie begins to build a counter-narrative about Barclay Donaldson, Ross Smith, and the Broome County Blades as being the aggressors, and Dave Carlson, Jerry Hauser, being nothing more than a blameless victim, the Hansons do not question this revisionist history.
I'm telling you, he jumped us.
Sure did. Yeah.
I mean, gloves off, stick down, no warning. He challenged the Chiefs.
Call us names.
Call us names!
Braden and Upton seem stunned that Reggie is attempting this. Consider, though, the Hansons were watching the same game from the bench, so they know that Reggie is spinning the story in a particular direction, hoping his team will stand up for itself. The Hansons know how the sport is played and what it takes to win. A part of any game is psychological. They know that part of their job is to do whatever Reggie needs them to do. In this case, they are being asked to accept a new narrative that will help the team win. They seem to understand something that Braden and his friends can't, that everything is essentially finite and a construct in any event. The team, the league, the sport, it is all artificial in a sense. They will probably be on another team next year with new teammates, and they will be exposed to a new coach's ideas about the game. So it matters little if Barclay actually attacked Dave or Dave attacked Barclay. One way or another, they are being asked to step up and do some heavy lifting for the team. They have to help the Chiefs win by fighting, so whether they find themselves in the Federal League or the Island League or some other league, this is what they will probably be doing. They will go along with anything which will keep Charlestown winning. As a result, they enthusiastically embrace this convenient new narrative, even going so far as to bestow Dave with his nickname.
Yeah. I mean, gloves off, stick down, no warning. He challenged the Chiefs. But Dave was there.
Dave's a killer. Yeah. Dave's a killer.
Dave's a mess.
Of course, Johnny Upton is correct. Dave's a mess. But this narrative is not useful to winning the game. Instead, the Hansons go with Reggie's story that they will be stepping up to avenge the terrible injustice done to their teammate, Dave. They love the game so much that they don't mind a little exaggeration, a little showbiz, a reworking of the narrative designed to sell tickets and win games. They are an exemplar of the type of hockey player, young, tough, and enthusiastic, that Reggie wants showcased in Charlestown. In that sense, they are kind of like the ambulance parked outside the war memorial. They are a symbol of the threat, or perhaps promise, of violence and mayhem yet to come. Reggie knows how to stage a spectacle. Chiefs fans have no idea what to expect when they see the Hansons hit the ice for the first time, but after a few minutes only, they are basically sold on the Brother Enforcer act, head over heels for the boys. We are put in mind of the bus driver, Walt, played by Cliff Thompson, who provides a revealing answer when Ned Braden asks why he is vandalizing the team bus with a sledgehammer.
What are you doing?
Making it look mean!
The Hansons, or at least their collective reputation, is something created by Reggie. As he declares while McGrath and Braden are bailing the boys out in Hyannisport.
When is the trial?
Trial? You can't leave those guys in there. They're folk heroes.
They're criminals.
Well, most folk heroes started out as criminals.
Sergeant.
In actuality, the Hansons are good, God-fearing boys, devoted sons to their mother, protective brothers to one another, and supportive teammates to the other Charlestown Chiefs. After the fact, it doesn't much matter why they went into the stands in Hyannisport, for vengeance or to uphold the honor of Charlestown. All that will be remembered ultimately is what Dickie Dunn writes about it in his column, keeping in mind he only knows what Reggie tells him over the telephone.
Someone threw a monkey wrench. Yeah, it hit Jeff right in the face.
True, the Hansons know how to fight and check and skate, but enforcer has always been said to be a role to a degree, and they play it so very well. They seem to understand that their arrest will help Reggie with publicity back in Charlestown by burnishing their reputation. They don't much care that they are being arrested. For his part, Jeff is impressed that half a dozen policemen were at the dressing room door to arrest he and his brother.
Hey, fellas, there's 6 of them out there for us. 6?
As he's taken away, Jeff's main focus is not on legal consequences, but on truly important matters.
Don't even want it on the either, all mine.
Their attitude defines who they are, remaining calm and cool in sometimes stressful situations, even remembering to wave goodbye as they are taken off to jail. They also refrain from holding grudges. After being released on bail, Jack Hanson tries to shake the desk sergeant's hand to show that there are no hard feelings, perhaps reminiscent of how NHL playoff series end with all the players and coaches lining up to shake hands. They are patient and forgiving with everyone, except abusive opposition fans, dysfunctional soda vending machines, and perhaps Dickie Dunn, M. Emmett Walsh.
He wrote the article on you in the paper.
Hi, guys. Nice to meet you. I was trying to capture the spirit of the thing.
They are gentle giants who enjoy simple pleasures. Come game time, however, they are there to kick serious ass in both senses of that term. The Hansons know well that a great sense of humor does not involve making fun of others, but rather being able to laugh at yourself. In this way, the Hansons are very much in on the joke. They know how they are perceived and they embrace their status as notable players in the Federal League. They know they aren't superstars like Bobby Orr or Guy Lafleur, but they'll happily enjoy a bit of notoriety as fighters. They do not take themselves seriously and have a truly healthy self-image. When they notice that people in the Booster Club are wearing black horn-rimmed glasses and fake noses, they immediately take it as a supreme compliment. They understand that it is meant as an homage. Another reason that the Hansons remain so indelible is that the three gentlemen they cast in these roles were actually athletes first and foremost, men who had played the game in the minors and then skated in the World Hockey Association, with two of the three, Jeff being the exception, having short stints in the NHL. They have a kind of swagger, which makes it appear as though their reputations precede them. Everything about the brothers seems credible, from their Iron League jackets to their relaxed attitude towards life.
See, they book you, then they give you a dime, and then they make one phone call. Call the pizza man. All right.
To their energetic, long-strided skating style, to their confidence in Reggie.
Yeah, really ashamed of myself.
Not you, coach.
To their love of their mother.
Like my mother! You're beautiful!
To their wish to be there to support their teammates.
But Dave was there.
Dave's a killer! Yeah! Dave's a killer!
When Reggie finally permits the Hanson line to get into the action against the Broome County Blades, after killer Carlson is injured fighting Barclay Donaldson, we see the level of mayhem that they are capable of creating. There is a look of mischief on their faces which tells a story. They love to mix it up with the opposition and get inside their heads. They possess an unbridled enthusiasm which connects them with their fans. The boys add something new and intangible and fun to the team. They are a three-man publicity machine. There is something else that is quite interesting in Slapshot. Whenever the game is ongoing and the Chiefs are at the players' bench, the Hansons are never shown sitting, not a single time. Presumably, this is a deliberate act on George Roy Hill's part to demonstrate that the Hansons are totally into the game, kind of living it. They may not be on the ice, that's Reggie's call after all, but they are clearly in the moment. They are engaged by the spectacle of watching others fight and wish that they might be permitted to participate, which eventually comes to pass. This is the question that Jim Carr poses to Reggie, and it's worth considering. It's a fair question.
What about the Hanson brothers?
What about them? They're not just bullies?
But Reggie's workaround answer is even better. He never says yes or no. It's left up to us to reach our own conclusions.
What do you mean, just bullies? They scare the bejesus out of everybody.
And everybody includes Reggie himself, initially at least, in that putting on the foil scene.
Jesus fucking Christ, they don't leave the bench.
The boys are enforcers, with everything that comes along with that. Some might define such players as bullies, while others see enforcers as just players, doing what they're paid to do, intimidate or protect, two sides of the same coin. In life, of course, the Hansons are not bullies at all, not bullies in the ordinary sense of that term anyway, not in any traditional sense. They do not take joy in denigrating others. They fight, but not for the sake of fighting alone. They know they are part of a team, something larger than themselves, so they fight with a larger purpose in mind. They are the opposite of a bully in a way. It is not about them personally at all. In the context of Slapshot, violence is a means to an end. For them, the Hansons, it means they can pursue a career in pro hockey. Plus, fighting wins over fans, intimidates the opponent, and makes winning the game, the ultimate goal in any sport, that much more likely. One is reminded of the motto of the Strategic Air Command: peace is our profession. The idea here is to pacify through overwhelming force, and the Hansons are the human equivalent of this slogan. Their skill as enforcers can make other teams back down, be less aggressive against Charlestown's finesse players. Ultimately, fighting is among the most basic of human activities. We've been doing it for millennia. Yet it is not quite so simple in the context of a sport. In the time of Slapshot, it was more about intimidating opponents. Part of what goes on for the Hansons is more about respect as well as courage and honor. The brothers are captivating to viewers because they have a remarkably positive outlook on their profession, on everything really. They love the game so much, with a childlike affection, that we tend to see things through their eyes. Theirs is a compelling perspective. Their irrepressible enthusiasm might tend to remind us of who we once were, and why the game so captivated the younger versions of ourselves. The Hansons are so good-natured and so well-intentioned that it is hard not to want to root for them. As the old saying has it, good things come in threes. Thanks for watching and for your continuing interest in this channel. Your comments and recollections about the film and about the game have been fascinating to read. Thanks for supporting the Slapshot series of videos. Please consider subscribing to this channel if you enjoyed the work. As always, I hope you will return to watch other videos.
The Hansons.
I throw up my hands, guys. I can't control them anymore. They gotta be punished. Will you do me a favor and put them behind bars?